Hey everyone, and welcome to another Mavens of Manufacturing episode. This week's episode is sponsored by Factory Fix. Factory Fix is a manufacturing talent platform that combines the power of a talent network featuring over 400,000 skilled manufacturing pros and recruiting a platform built specifically for the manufacturing industry. Today's episode is also supported by the IMTS Plus Creators Lounge, the Association for Manufacturing Technology, or AMT, and Industrial. The IMTS Plus Creators Lounge is a brand new experience powered by AMT and Industrial in the South Hall at booth 338-600 in the McCormick Place in Chicago, Illinois. The Creators Lounge will feature influencers like myself, as well as industry creators, individuals who have great insights and stories to share. So join us for IMTS during September 12th through the 17th. Now, today I have with me Sam Bennett, who is a facility manager at Kettering University and also an intern within the engineering co-op at McNaughton-McKay Electric Company. I hope I pronounced that right. Is that correct, Sam?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me today. I'm really excited to have a conversation with you. So, just a backstory on how Sam and I connected. She reached out to me after hearing about Mavens of Manufacturing, and one of her goals is to actually get more women involved within engineering. So, Sam, I just want to get a brief background about yourself. Can you tell us a little about who you are and how you got involved with engineering, and what were some of the things that really inspired you to pursue such a career?
Yeah. So my dad, growing up, so he started out as a controls engineer, and he
Okay.
moved into food equipment sales in the commercial space, so working with restaurants, and he did a lot of sales side of stuff, but he also was able to do like custom kitchen designs and seeing growing up around him, being able to provide full solutions to people and provide that customer service and build relationships with people like that kind of touched with me a lot, and I really liked that, and I wanted to do that for a really long time. And I didn't really know how to make that happen as a career, and still make a decent amount of money and stuff. And so when I was looking at careers, I decided that engineering might be a pretty good way to start that. I've always liked taking things apart, figuring out how they work, putting them back together again, and seeing if they still work after at that point. So I looked into engineering, and then I decided that that was a good path to pursue. And when I got to Kettering and I started looking for a job and everything, and I ended up working at Mac for my co-op, I figured out that I was doing controls just like my dad had been back in the day. I ended up being able to do sales and still provide customer service to people and provide solutions for them. And it really rounded back to growing up around my dad and shadowing him at work and stuff when I was little.
So when you were going through school, what sort of classes were you taking, or what sort of classes did your schools provide you? Because there's this conversation now surrounding the sector, like when should we start exposing kids to STEM activities and opportunities in engineering and manufacturing? Because a lot of the recruitment, and this was true when I was in high school back in the day, it didn't start until we hit sophomore year of high school, and that's when they really started helping us pick what courses we wanted to take and developing sort of our mindset for what career pathway we wanted to take. So when you were in high school, was it during that time that you started thinking about engineering, or was it before that? And what was that process like?
So for me, I didn't start taking AP. So my school offered AP classes, and that was pretty much it. We didn't have a lot of robotics related classes or technical things unless you were going into the trades, just because of the area that I'm in, that I grew up in. And so I took AP calculus, AP chemistry, and then I got into physics. But I didn't get into those till my junior year when I was looking for colleges and trying to pick one. And a lot of my friends now that go to Kettering, they grew up in the Detroit area where there's robotics is really heavy down here. And so they started on an engineering path extracurricular wise, like their freshman year of high school, sometimes younger. And I think that there needs to be more options for that starting younger at like middle school. Because when you're in middle school is when you're trying to figure out like what path you want to take in high school. And the path you take in high school leads to the path you're taking in college, which leads to your entire career. And so I think that to not get kids engaged in STEM and engineering extracurriculars and build it as a passion starting like middle to early high school is a big mistake. And it makes it really difficult to pull kids in.
So why did you pick Kettering? What attracted you to that school? And, what other choices were you thinking about with Kettering, and what was kind of the deciding factor for you to say, yeah, this is the place that I want to go to?
So I looked at a couple schools in Ohio, and one of them I really liked. It was just in the middle of a big city, and that wasn't really for me. Another one, I felt that engineering was kind of a secondary degree path for them, and it wasn't really a strong department. And when I found Kettering, I went and did a tour one-on-one with a student, and by the time I walked out of the tour, I looked at my mom and I was like, well, you should probably get used to this place because this is where I'm going to be living for the next 4.5 years. The tour, so Kettering is a really small, tight-knit community.
Okay.
It's very rare to walk down a hallway and not see someone that you recognize. Like it's just a small school, and we all interact a lot. We're all really involved. There is a lot of opportunity for campus involvement for such a small school. And not only that, but the co-op program. So we do 4 terms in a year. They're each 3 months. 2 of them are school, 2 of them are work, and we alternate. So when you're at school, you're doing 16 to 20 credits in 10 weeks. And then when you're at work, you're working full-time, 40 hours a week at a paid internship, and you usually go to the same company every year. So that allows you to get 2.5 years in at a company. And when you graduate, you can use that as leverage, or use it as a foot in the door to get a full-time position. And if you don't want to work at a company, you have 2.5 years of experience and you just graduated, whereas everyone else that just graduated has maybe a summer.
That's really cool. So through that co-op program, how many companies do they have a partnership with that you can choose from?
I'm not sure the exact number, but it's well over 100.
So when you were going through that process of deciding what co-op you wanted to work with, how many were on your top 5 or top 3 list?
So I went to the co-op fair and I talked to, I still remember I talked to 23 companies that day. McNaughton-McKay was actually the very last one that I talked to that day because I just made my way around the room and they happened to be in the very back. And there was a few companies that I really liked, but a lot of them just really blended together. Okay. I actually couldn't figure out exactly what McNaughton-McKay did as a high school, because I was a senior in high school when I went to the co-op fair, and I had no clue what they did.
Okay.
In my interview, I still had no idea what Mac and Mac really did. I was like, they sell things, it's electrical. I don't know. I started my first day and it was great.
Why did you pick them then over the other choices that you were looking at?
So I actually messed up my GPA on my resume, and I didn't realize it until a few weeks after the co-op fair. And by then, all the other companies that I was interested in already hired people, and McNaughton-McKay was the only one still interviewing.
Wow.
So fate, whatever you want to call it, just kind of landed me right here. And it turned out I can't imagine working at any of the other companies that I was interested in. I can't imagine that I would have enjoyed it very much.
So what specifically do you like about working there? Because one of the things that we talk about is how companies are marketing themselves to the next generation, and in manufacturing and engineering. And maybe you can tell me from your perspective, but from my perspective, they're not very good at it. Like the younger generations coming in have no idea what modern day manufacturing or engineering is. And I feel strongly about it being, one of the things companies can improve on, because they're not doing a very good job. Like Nike, for example, or Apple, they're doing fantastic jobs getting their products out there and letting people, like, getting people really excited about their brand. Apple specifically, like, I've never understood what it is about it's an amazing product, don't get me wrong, but to have people like set up tents and stay overnight in line just to get their newest iPhone, it's fantastic to see. So what is it about you called it Mac and Mac? Is that what you call it? For sure.
Yeah, that's their short name.
What is it about their company that you really enjoy, and why should other people like look into it as a place to work?
So actually, it's funny because that's a struggle that we've had for a long time, especially in the co-op department, because we're trying to hire kids fresh out of high school to come work in manufacturing, and it's hard to explain to them what it is, because in the real world, manufacturing is very behind the scenes. It's massive and it's huge, and so many people do it, but your average consumer isn't really concerned with it. So what we've used is they actually tasked the co-op team ourselves with developing tools to recruit other students. So me and another student worked on that and got some material together. We all write testimonials on why we think that Mac and Mac provides more value than any other co-op, that kind of thing. So for me, really, McNaughton-McKay as a co-op, we have over 20 alum from Kettering that work here that went through the co-op program. They know what it's like. They know that you're here to learn, and the company benefits more from a co-op if everyone invests in teaching them. Whereas a lot of some other co-ops don't invest as heavily as Mac and Mac does. A lot of them do, but some of them just don't. And McNaughton-McKay is very much a team organization. We cross-collaborate across many groups within the company, and we have a lot of opportunity to make improvements. And they also allow us to work in any group we want to. So we have our set engineering rotations that we have to go to learn products, to do our actual job function, because the co-op team itself is its own team that has a primary job function on top of shadowing everyone else. But then after that, you can do pretty much whatever you want to do with the approval of your manager. So like I've done a service rotation, I've done a sales rotation, and I actually went back into services to dive more specifically into a different one position on that team. Just because I didn't know what I wanted to do when I graduated.
So what do you know any of the like retention rates that they have in terms of when students get done with the co-op portion, how many actually get hired on as employees? Do you have those stats?
They hire as many as they can. In the last probably 5 years, off the top of my head, I can count 6 people that they hired out of the co-op program. And you say there's probably 2 to 4 that graduate per year between A and B section. Some of those people, they didn't want to do what we do, or they aren't fit for a sales position, because a lot of engineers aren't. It's sort of a personality thing. But one thing that McNaughton-McKay does is we work with customers every day that don't do sales, but they still do the same type of engineering. And you get to build connections with those people. So a lot of our co-ops that don't end up working here, they don't have a very hard time finding a job in the industry.
That's really cool. So as a woman in engineering, what has your experience been from that perspective? Because one of the things that you mentioned when we first connected was that there's very few women involved in engineering. So how has that changed since we last talked? Because I know it's been a few months since we initially connected. How is that going in recruiting more women specifically into engineering?
So I'm starting my 4th year at Mac and Mac now. I have met one woman engineer outside of McNaughton-McKay, and there is one other woman engineer who works at McNaughton-McKay. So I've met two. And that hasn't changed. We went to the co-op fair last spring, and we talked to a couple of women that were there, but it didn't work out to hire them. And we tried to draw more to our booth. We tried to engage them. I tried to engage them, and it just, there wasn't a lot of interest. And manufacturing historically is not a very interesting area to go into. People view it as something that is for their dad to do, and it's boring, and it's gross, and it's dirty, and it's not
Which
fun,
is not
interesting or cool. Not it at all.
Not the case.
Yeah. One thing that I always ask the co-op or the students at the co-op fair, if they ask what we do, is I always tell them, have you ever seen the show How It's Made? And they say, yeah. And I'm like, do you think it's cool? Do you think it's interesting? They're like, yeah, it's really cool. I like seeing how everything's made. Now, even manufacturing is part of like the ASMR videos that you'll see on social media too. And I'm like, we make that happen. Like, we sell the products that make that happen. All of our customers build those machines. And they're like, oh. And it kind of puts manufacturing in a whole nother light. People don't really connect what manufacturing actually is. They just kind of go off of what they've always assumed it was.
So what are some of your thoughts on getting more women involved with engineering? Like, one of the things that you mentioned is you're helping Mac and Mac, I hope I'm saying the abbreviation right, Mac and Mac's marketing, like you're helping with that, but what other thoughts do you have, especially with, manufacturing and engineering businesses? Where do you think they're falling short outside of the marketing department? Like, what else? What other opportunities are there for companies to really get involved with to get the next generations excited about engineering and manufacturing, specifically women?
I think something they can do today is getting more involved with groups like Mavens of Manufacturing, or Society of Women Engineers, and getting involved with associations and organizations that promote women and help women, and that is their main goal, and engaging with them, because that really shows at a public level that you care and you're invested, and that a woman that comes to work at your company can feel supported and safe and protected, and that she has an environment that's going to grow. But I also think that a lot of companies are lacking in the fact that they're relying on colleges to do all of the work. And colleges are not doing the work all that well. Some of them are, but most of them aren't. You look at right now we have all the baby boomer generation is retiring. So we have a lot of job openings, especially in manufacturing. And there's no one to fill them. And that's on colleges right now, because all of those people now require degrees. Whereas when a lot of the baby boomers came in, none of them had degrees. But now you have to have a degree or 5 years of experience, and you can't get 5 years of experience now without that degree to get your foot in the door. And so I think that what I would challenge and what I would like to see companies and colleges do is, quite honestly, get desperate. Start going to middle schools and asking them if you can do a STEM fair, where you go and show them what your company does. Let them play with some toys. Let them do, at a very basic level, see what your engineers do. And see how that goes. And build from there. Do workshops. Do something. But I'd like to see companies team up with colleges, and instead of just relying on them, actually work with them and help them promote it, because colleges can't do it on their own. They can make as many papers and pamphlets as they want, but they don't have access to the resources and the technology that companies do, because the companies are the ones that are making them.
I agree with you. I think this is important for our audience to listen to, because, I'm involved a lot on LinkedIn, which is the older generations. It's the baby boomers, it's the millennials, the Gen Xers, and not a lot of the Gen Zers are on LinkedIn. They're on other places. And I'm always telling manufacturers, you have to be more proactive and marketing yourselves not just to your potential customers, but also your community. You have to get in front of them, go to the middle schools, talk to the students directly, ask them questions, let them be as blunt as they want to be, because kids don't have filters.
No,
Not until they get into the adult world, but they're some of the most honest individuals out there, and they'll tell you, like, this is what you need to do, this is what I like, this is what I don't like. And they still have that curiosity where they're going to ask why a million times, and it gets really annoying, but it's good for developing better processes and solutions to get the next generation involved. So I really am glad that you said all those things, because you're the voice of that generation, and manufacturers and engineering companies need to hear this, because they need those ideas and they need to be more proactive. um, I like that you said I challenged them to do that. And that kind of tied in with my last question of what your biggest ask was going to be. But if you have another ask, what would your biggest ask be of our audience today in terms of getting help recruiting the next generation?
so honestly, another thing that made a huge impact on me was in high school. So I grew up in the Lansing area, so right by
Okay.
the Grand River and the Delta plants for GM. So my AP Calculus class, which is one of the bases of engineering, he reached out to some parents that he knew that worked at GM and asked them if we could do a plant tour for our whole class. And we got to go out and walk through the entire automotive plant and see the whole process, and really get exposed to manufacturing. And I think that is something really simple that a lot of manufacturing facilities can do, or even machine builders or any engineering personnel, is if you have something that you can show high schoolers, reach out and ask if there is a group or an organization through the school or a class that would want to come and do a tour, would want to come and job shadow your engineers for a day, set up 3 high schoolers with an engineer, and just see what they do.
I think that's a great ask. So what can we expect to see from Sam after you're done? Because you're on your 4th year. So what can we expect to see from you?
So currently I'm working on trying to get hired full-time at McNaughton-McKay. I started shadowing some of our project engineers who do electrical and panel design. So I'll get to learn a lot more about products, how to use them, how to apply them, how our customers use them and interact with them, to be able to connect with them a lot more. But I'll also be able to expand some project management experience, because I've only really had them at school with extracurriculars and not necessarily so much at work directly. I've touched on it, but not with other people involved. It's been a lot of self-reliant projects that I've managed. And I'll still get to do sales and kind of shadow everyone else within the company and see how they do what they do, how they interact with customers, and what works for some and what works for others.
Okay. I'm going to challenge my network who's watching today to reach out to you and connect with you and follow you, especially in all of your areas of interest. So if you're watching, reach out to Sam, connect, say hi to her, let her know what's going on, what opportunities she should look into. And if you have other connections that could help her, let's collaborate together and figure this problem out. She has great ideas how to get the next generation attracted to engineering and manufacturing. So let's do this together and connect. Sam, I really want to thank you for joining us today on Mavens of Manufacturing. It was really fun having you on. And, if there's anything else that we can do on the Maven side of things, if you still, want to get your campus and have us get involved with your campus, let us know. I would love to come out and check it out, and also involve Andrew Crow and some of my other friends on LinkedIn who could come up with some really great presentations for your classmates. I would love to do that. So let's keep in touch after this. I also want to thank our featured sponsor, Factory Fix, who makes manufacturing hiring easier. And then I also want to remind everyone of the More Than Manufacturing Expo organized by the CBT Company. The More Than Manufacturing Expo is from August 30th to 31st and will feature the latest and greatest products and technology demonstrations, insightful speakers, technical sessions, and of course, myself. You don't want to miss this expo. Join me at the Sharonville Convention Center in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'll be speaking on a panel with Jay Stahl, Jake Hall, and Andrew Crow. You can find free tickets. I'm going to pull this up real quick because last time I didn't have it and I want to make sure that I have it. But you can find free tickets at, that is the wrong one. You got to love live TV. There we go. Free tickets at cbtcompany.com/More Than Manufacturing Expo. So make sure you check that out. Again, Sam, thank you for coming on board. I really appreciate the time. For anyone looking to find out more information about Mavens of Manufacturing, you can visit mavensofmanufacturing.com. Be sure to stop by in Chicago as well. In September, I'll be there at IMTS. But until then, have a great weekend and goodbye, everyone. Thanks again.
We know hiring quality manufacturing talent isn't always easy and that there can be a lot of moving parts. That's why Factory Fix is introducing a powerful new tool, Talent Text. No more candidate no-shows. Talent Text allows you to connect with candidates up to 5 times faster than you or even the best recruiter can. Job openings happen overnight. Candidates fall by the wayside and emails get buried and forgotten. Through 3-directional chat, Factory Fix Talent Pros help put you in the hand of a highly skilled worker within seconds. Find quality faster at factoryfix.com.